Hi, it's Gail the Planning Girl. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm not sharing a planning video with you. I'm sharing my surgery story. So all my planner friends who are here, if you're interested in hearing about my surgery story, you're welcome to stay. And if you are here because you did a search on YouTube about cervical discectomy, I do have a YouTube channel. It's all about planning and DIY for paper crafting, so you're welcome to check that out. I would love it if you'd subscribe. But I am going to go into detail about my surgery that I had, obviously, on my neck. So I hope that this video helps anyone who is facing this surgery alleviate any fears, or just to kind of explain someone who has gone through it. And if you have questions or comments, leave them in the comment section and I will answer them to the best of my ability. I am not a doctor. I'm just a person who had a cervical discectomy on August 25th, 2020, and I thought I would share my story. Today is actually September 1st, 2020. I think this sounds, at least in my head, it sounds like my voice is fine and dandy and back to normal. This is a cervical collar that needs to be worn. My doctor wants me to wear it 24/7 for at least the next 2 weeks when I have my follow-up appointment on September 10th. So, alrighty, I think I want to start off by just giving you a little bit of background as to why I chose surgery and what happened to me to create this injury. The doctors feel, that would be the chiropractor, my regular doctor, and the neurosurgeon, I was diagnosed with degenerative disc disorder, which in my personal opinion, again, this is my personal opinion, this is not medical opinion, I think it's just a catch-all for, we're not sure why your discs are leaking out, but you know, here you go, you have a diagnosis. I am 50 years old. Well, I'm currently 51, but when the discs collapsed, I was 50 years old. In March of 2020, as you know, COVID-19 hit. I am a teacher and needed to teach my ELA classes virtually. So I came home with a school-issued laptop. I set myself up in here. This is my planning room. It's not an ideal place to sit all day on a laptop. I do wear bifocal glasses, but I know I still lean forward and squint, and I would rest on my elbow and click and scroll and type responses to kids and emails. And so I know now that sitting still or holding a position for hours at a time was not ideal. As a kiddo growing up, I was taught, you sit still, and I can sit still for a long, long time. I know that fidgeting is better, and I have since learned to be more fidgety and remind myself to get up and move about. In fact, I need to shift in my chair. So I think all those hours from March to May contributed. I think living a life for 50 years of your life, I would always try to carry in all the groceries in as few of trips as possible. I push mowed, I shoveled, I weeded, I raised 2 children, I clean a house. You do all the things that you do. And yeah, and I do have a slight curve in my spine, and my husband thinks that structurally that my body was structured so that maybe those discs were weak in my neck. Who knows? And really, I guess I'll never truly know what caused the disc to collapse. All I know is that back in May, I had been cleaning my son's apartment and helping him out with some spring cleaning, and I was sore after. And I happened to carry all of my stress in the back of my left shoulder blade and down the left side of my neck. So I thought maybe I had hurt myself because I was scrubbing the back of his shower and tub stall, and my right arm was getting tired. And so I moved to scrub with my left arm, and I did feel something like pop, and I thought I had pulled a muscle or knocked a rib out of place. And so I babied it for 2 weeks, ice and heat and that kind of thing, soaking in the tub, and it wasn't really getting better. So I saw the chiropractor, had an adjustment, felt good, and was supposed to go back 2 days later for another adjustment. When I did go back, that adjustment didn't feel as good, and over the course of the next couple of days, I started getting numbness and tingling in these 3 fingers. Things just progressed from there, and he felt that I had a herniated disc in my neck. So I did a course of prednisone for a week, and my regular doctor prescribed physical therapy. After a couple of weeks of physical therapy using the TENS machine, which I loved, it was my only relaxation in my day because I had just constant pain. I mean, I was at a 9 or 10 almost continuously. The pain was never in my neck. It was always down here across my shoulder, down my shoulder, behind the back of my arm, up, and especially in my elbow, and then down my forearm into my wrist. And then these 3 fingers were numb and tingly. And the top of this finger, sometimes just the pain, you'd either freeze or you were on fire, or it felt like someone was drilling into you. I later found out, of course, it's nerve pain, and nerve pain changes as you move and shift as your day. 1 minute it can feel okay, and the next minute it's not. So physical therapy resumed, and I went to physical therapy 3 times a week until the end of June. By the end of June, I felt like I was finally starting to heal. I was on week 10 of my healing, and I felt like I was finally starting to tolerate everything, and I would still get some zingers in my back. The back of my arm felt pinched, or my elbow. My pain was constant, but it was manageable and breathable, and I could go throughout my day. So I finally was able to get my insurance company would allow me to have an MRI, which happened on July 10th, which was more than 2 months after this whole shebang started. And based on the results of the MRI, I was sent to see a neurosurgeon. I needed to have the surgery. My 3 discs that were collapsed, 6-7, 5-6, and 4-5, were leaning on my spine and bending it. 2 nerves were displaced, the one that was sending all the pain down my left arm into the fingers, and the one that was sending the pain down the back into my shoulder blade and scapula and the squishy parts there. But the main concern was that my spine was compromised, and I could have opted to not have the surgery, which was not an option for me because permanent damage to my spine would result likely in the loss of mobility and some paralysis, and that was not an option for me. So we scheduled the surgery for August 25th, and I have to say, from the time we had seen the neurosurgeon until August 25th was going to be a long time. It was like 6 weeks, and I just didn't want to wait. But once I knew that surgery was on the horizon, I was mentally prepared, and I just went into it knowing I would be healed and I would be fine. So a little bit of background. Before this disc collapse, I do exercise, especially during summer vacation, every single day. During the school year, I try to walk every day, 3 miles before this injury, and, use hand weights and that kind of thing, and eat right, those kinds of things. So, and I really don't take medications. I really don't get sick. So I'm a very healthy person, and I think that helped contribute to such a quick healing. At least I feel I'm quick. I'm right on track. I'm really not having any pain post-surgery. Today is September 1st. It's exactly 1 week from my surgery date. And even yesterday, I had said to my husband and my mom that I feel like myself. Until I sneezed. And then I was like, ow. So, okay. Before you have your surgery, you will likely have to stop medications. I do take a daily vitamin. I do take Zyrtec or Claritin or something for my allergies. And I do take a statin. You'll get a list and you'll be told what to do. So about 2 weeks out, I had to stop taking, you couldn't take a Tylenol or a Motrin if you had a headache or anything like that. So, and even your multivitamin, you were not permitted to take, or I was not permitted to take. So I was just taking my allergy meds and my statin, trying to eat very, very well, exercise well, no alcohol for a couple of weeks prior to the surgery as well, and just trying to make sure that I, got plenty of rest and exercise and was well hydrated, and just really wanted to go in my 100% best self, and with the mindset and attitude that I would be coming out 100% and healing well and being my best self. And I think your mental attitude really helps with your healing too. So about 5 days outside of surgery, you have to wash with a special soap, and that would just be your arms, legs, and body, not your face or hair. And this soap just makes sure there's no bacteria or whatever on your skin, keeps you really clean. No lotions or perfumes or makeups. So now it's the day of the surgery. I had to be there, of course, at early in the morning. For me, my surgery was early. I was one of the first. It was I had to appear at 6 a.m. So that morning, of course, nothing to eat or drink after midnight. I was permitted to take my allergy meds that morning, but I opted not to. Thinking that I would be in the hospital and away from plants and animals and dust, and I wouldn't necessarily need it. And once I woke up or later in the day, I would always take it in the evening anyway, so I didn't think it was that big of an issue. So you wash with the special soap that morning, put on clean clothes, no makeup, my earrings were home, my wedding rings were home, no hair products. So when we got to the hospital, you let them know you're there, and I, of course, had the band put around my hand with my identification, and we were taken to like a little holding area, pre-op kind of a place. You need to take off all of your clothing and put on a hospital gown. And then over the course of about half an hour, many people came and went. I had blood drawn again. I had an IV port put in my wrist here. There's still a little mark, which was nice that it was on the side, because that way I was still able to use my hand, because that IV stayed in right until about half an hour before I was discharged, an hour before I was discharged from the hospital. So I had blood drawn. I had my neck cleaned with a large, I'm going to say an alcohol pad. It was, this woman came in and swiped, a nurse came in and swiped my neck and all around. Blood drawn, because I'm a woman, they had me take a urine test to make sure I wasn't pregnant. And what else? Everybody seemed to listen to my heart and lungs. The anesthesiologist came in and asked me questions. I was questioned, did I have anything to eat or drink? All the questions that they had asked many, many times prior, because I had had 5 appointments prior to the surgery, and that was just with the neurosurgeon's office. Do you drink? Do you smoke? Do you take drugs? What medications do you take? Those kinds of things. Do you have any, diseases or whatever? So let's pause there and talk a little bit about some of those 5 appointments. I had a chest x-ray and an EKG, lots of blood work, just to make sure that I'm assuming that you're healthy and able to have the surgery. A nasal swab was done for staff. So yeah, lots of things to prep you. And None of those were uncomfortable or scary or anything like that. The hardest thing was that they were all in Erie, and that's a 2+ hour drive for us from where we live. But again, it was all fine, and everyone handled everything so well, and everybody was, you know, they didn't really make you wait, and they were all very professional and very caring. So I was very pleased with my care. So I'm in the bed waiting, wearing the Johnny, and you have to wear a net over your head, and they put you wear these little sock slipper things that have like sticky bottoms for gripping. And like I said, blood was drawn, my neck was cleaned, it was measured. I had this collar with me. I had gotten it after one of my first appointments, and I had to bring it with me to the OR. So it was time for surgery, and 2 nurses came. One took my husband to the waiting room, and the other was going to take me to the OR. On our way, we paused at a door, and one of the attendants had put something in my IV, and he said it's for anxiety, which I thought was funny. And I didn't think I was anxious. In fact, I was very ready for the surgery, and I did not have butterflies, and I did not have worries. I was actually more calm than I thought I would be. I expected to be all flippy and worried, but I wasn't. And I think it was because I had been in such pain for so many weeks that I was so very ready for this to happen and for me to be better. So that, whatever he gave me, you could just work so quickly, and I just kind of leaned back against the bed, and I said, wow, that works quick. And he said, yep. And I was wheeled into the OR, and they tilted the bed back, and I remember looking up at the ceiling and saying, and thinking at how it was all like metal paneled, it looked to me. And I made a comment about the ceiling just being so industrial looking, and what nurse had said something about, yeah, and that was it. That's the last thing I remember. When I woke up, I was in the recovery room. It was an odd day because, unfortunately, that particular day in Erie, several people succumbed to heart attacks or strokes and needed hospitalization, and my recovery room time, which typically is an hour, ended up being 5 hours. And again, it was very unusual. The rooms kept being taken by other people who needed them more quickly than I. And and I just had to wait my turn. So that was odd. But my nurse, Karen, was fabulous during those 5 hours, taking care of me. So when I woke up, of course, my throat was sore because they put a tube down in your throat to help you breathe. And during the surgery, your esophagus is scooched out of the way. So anyway, as I said, I had a sore throat from the tube. My incision is here in the front, and that was sore. And my neck on the side here, which hadn't been sore or achy at all the whole time from my injury, was sore. But when I say sore, I just mean sore. I would say on a pain scale that they always use, 1 to 10, that it was like a 1, because it just felt like I slept funny. When you wake up and you've slept on your pillow wrong and your neck's just kind of sore. And that actually got better as the day moved forward. I mean, that night, it was barely even, something noticeable when I went to sleep that night. And same with my throat. It started off, my throat hurt the whole length. And then by the time I had dinner, which was around 5, it was truly just at the base, and only when I swallowed. It's actually a little sore today, which I think it's because yesterday I sneezed and I was feeling fabulous. I wanted to make this video yesterday, but I didn't get my hair washed until late. So I didn't make the video yesterday. But later in the evening, like around 7:30, I sneezed and it made this whole side over here ache. And it just ached, just like I could tell that it was still sore deep inside. But just to live my life and be here and be talking to you, it's no big deal. So in the recovery room, I had ice chips. I found I had a second IV. It was in this hand, and I'm still a little bruised. This IV was for the medicine that they give you so that your body doesn't move. It's like a paralytic, I think they call it, which basically it kind of freezes you, like paralyzes you, so you don't move during the surgery. And that one was uncomfortable, and because the needle was like touching my wrist. So when I would try to adjust myself in the bed, I couldn't put my hand flat to give leverage to scooch myself so that I wasn't using my head and neck and shoulders. And I did eventually get that one taken out before I went to bed that night. So that was a great relief. So that one was uncomfortable and annoying. The tape that they had across here, across my throat, pulled on my skin, and that was annoying, but I wouldn't say I had pain. They had given me pain medication, of course, after the surgery. I think it was Demerol, but don't quote me on that. It was my understanding from Karen while I was in recovery that any pain medication that I had been given had worn off, and she would come in and ask me if I wanted more, and I kept telling her no. I had lots of ice water and lots of ice chips while I was waiting in recovery. My husband finally was able to come see me about 2 hours into recovery. He and I had the plan that once he saw me and I was in my room, he was going to drive home. Because we had to wait for a room, we continued on with that plan and just said, bring me my bag, leave it right here with me in the recovery room and go home. So I was able to see him for a bit, and then he left. And then for the next 3 hours, while I sat there in the bed, I was able to entertain myself by texting my brothers, my sister-in-law, my mom, my daughter. I emailed my son, he works nights, and a couple of friends. So that was good. The whole time I was sitting there for those 5 hours, I still had the little plastic balloon-like things from my knee down. They don't hurt. They expand with air and then contract, so they kind of squeeze your muscle and let go. To be honest, I could use a set of those for home, especially after standing all day in my classroom. I thought they felt fabulous. The whole time they were going off and on, I loved them. When they unplugged them to take me to my room and they were just laying there on me, you could tell they were plastic and my legs got hot, but it doesn't hurt, and actually it felt pretty good, to be honest. I liked those balloon-like things on your legs. They're to prevent blood clots. So yeah, it was pretty boring in the recovery room until I got my phone and lots of ice chips, some good care. I would doze. Karen took excellent care of me. Finally got my room, and they wheeled me upstairs to my room at 3 o'clock, at which time I met the floor nurses and the nurse's aide. They were both fabulous. Unfortunately, after being hooked up to those machines, I thought I was going to be able to get up and move about. That's not the case, because once you get on the floor, they want to monitor you for the first couple of hours to see what you're doing and how you're like. So I was still stuck in the bed for 2 more hours, which ended up being about an hour and a half. I was given an IV of antibiotic fluid in my on my right-hand port. Again, the left one just stayed left alone. They did hook up some sort of a monitor with tape here, which is funny because the tape actually bruised. I don't know if you can see the top of my finger. It's almost gone, that little bruise from tape. I don't know if I'm like super sensitive or if it's tight, but that checks your oxygen saturation, I believe, the whole time you're there. And there's like a little portable machine, and they just stick it with all these wires. I had no idea how many wires I was hooked up to. You will be shocked. I mean, at one point in recovery, I wanted to adjust and shift and sit forward, and Karen had to come in. I had all these blankets and these wires, and it just, she's like, let's get you organized. So that was pretty funny. And of course you have all these like pads monitoring your heart down your side and on your chest, and I think there was a couple on my back. Or maybe they monitor your lungs, I have no idea. So after an hour and a half of being in the bed and just, having the antibiotic and being monitored, I was able to get off all the machines and unhooked from my IV. I still had my port. I still had that portable thing on me, and it was in my pocket, and I was able to pace. I ordered dinner. I thought, I felt fine. Oh, I had a sherbet, and that seemed fine, and my voice was quite hoarse, but I thought, well, I better eat. I haven't eaten since dinner the night before when I had had a salad, and it was going on 24 hours without food, and I thought I would eat. So I did order some green beans and broccoli. I could eat one bean at a time. Your mouth doesn't open real far with this sucker. So there you have that. And I drink with a straw. I ordered some hot chicken broth, which you don't want to drink hot through a straw, just so you know. And some applesauce and another sherbet. So hot felt good, cold felt good. I drank a ton of ice water. My husband and I talked via text about sunset. My nurse was trying to convince me to take an oxy for bed. I don't like to take medication, and certainly not that kind of narcotic medication. I did not feel pain, and I just was so unwilling. But between her and the aide and my husband, I decided, just take the pill and get a good rest, which is funny because you're in a hospital. So I did have that medication about 10:30. I fell right to sleep. I woke up at 1:30 when my night nurse came in for another antibiotic IV, and she and I chit-chatted for that half hour while it dripped in. And then I slept for a couple of hours when they came to take more blood at 5, and then I slept for a couple of hours, and then my doctor came in to remove the drain. Let's talk about the drain. I was a little worried when I heard drain, and that it would be a tube in me removing any liquids, blood, and of course your body's fighting to heal and make a bruise, and so that drains from a bruise occurring and swelling from occurring, because this is your throat and you don't want that to swell. That would be very bad. The drain was a little gross, only because I don't like blood and guts. It was like a little bulb. It rested here, and you could see the tube, and I only saw the bulb when I went into the bathroom and saw myself in the mirror, because you cannot look down. This is it right here. This is as down as I go. Anyway, the tube goes in, and I could tell it was there, and they had stitched it to my skin, and I'm not sure, I don't even think you can see it anymore, but it was stitched here somewhere, and those two little stitches would catch sometimes on this fabric, and I could tell. And my collarbone was a little sore. It still is to touch, but again, sore, not pain or agony. This was nothing compared to the nerve pain I felt prior to the surgery, which, by the way, as soon as I got up, was gone. I had 0 pain in my scapula, 0 pain in the back of my arm, 0 pain in my wrist, 0 pain in my index finger, 0 pain in my elbow, 0. The only thing I still have is some numbness in these 3 fingers, and that will come back, hopefully. And the numbness that I feel in these 3, in fact, I feel like my thumb is almost back to normal. It's just a tiny bit numb. This finger is the worst, and I can still feel that it's numb along the side here. And my middle finger sometimes feels like I'm getting it back, but these 3 fingers still feel a little tingly-ish, but I have no pain. And after having that pain that was so severe for so long, I just want to say praise God. So, the drain. Sorry. I'm just so glad it's over. So I was really worried about the drain. Tim, the nurse practitioner, and my doctor both came in, and Tim snipped the little X that was holding the tube and pulled those stitches out. Didn't really feel it. What was funny was that he pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled that tube, and I was thinking, holy cow, how much tube is there? And then it came out, and there was like a little pop, and he immediately put pressure on it because I was bleeding. And then my doctor put a big Band-Aid on it and said he wanted to leave that there until Thursday or Friday when I was going to take my shower. He said, leave that alone. And I said, okie doke. He undid my collar, and they had pulled the plastic like clear Band-Aid off and had checked out my incision and whatnot. The reason the drain was able to come out the very next day was because I had so little fluid coming from it. So, and I don't know if it means anything to anybody, but from my surgery until at one point when Karen emptied it, a little while before I went up to my room, I couldn't tell you what time because I didn't pay attention, 30 milliliters was removed because she measured it and told me. And then it was emptied that night, and it was another not quite 30. And then the next morning when the doctor emptied it, it was less than 10. So they removed the drain and said I could go home. So that was fabulous. Let me also note that once I was released the night before from all my tubes and things, and I was able to eat dinner, and I drank a lot of water. I mean, a lot. Pitcher after pitcher of ice water. I was up out of the bed. I was pacing my room because I felt like I could. I was looking out the window. I was texting and emailing my family and friends. I read a book. You have to do a breathing treatment. And I did that religiously every hour. The 10 breaths that I had to do every hour. I just did. So, the surgery, so then the next morning, after, I was going to get to go, you got your discharge information. So yeah, the drain was out. I was going to be discharged. I was able to clean up a little bit, just like with a wash rag. Got dressed. OT and PT came to see me. I had to put my socks on. I had to put my shoes on. I had to prove I could walk and go up and down steps and that kind of thing. And of course, your heart and lungs are listened to a million times. They ask you 1,000 questions. And then my husband was able to come, and I was discharged with 2 medications. And my husband came and we went home. And every pothole that he hit on the way to Erie sent shockwaves down through my body. And every pothole he hit on the way home from Erie was fine. And I just am so grateful. I can't explain how fabulous this surgery was. This collar is called the Aspen collar, and it goes down a little ways. And it goes in the back. It goes up in the back. I don't know if I'm showing it real well. I'll try to turn this way maybe. You can see it. Notice I have to turn my body, not my neck, because you can't. So inside there is my incision. So I want to talk about the surgery. So the way it's explained to me, and I am not a medical doctor, I'm a teacher and a person who had a cervical discectomy. So listen to your doctor. But I had 3 discs collapse. My discs are that jelly-like substance that are between the bones in your spine. So let's see how well I can draw. I'm not sure I can flip the camera and do that, but I'm going to try. So, you have vertebrae. Okay, and this one is number 7, this one's 6, this one's 5, this one's 4, 3, 2, and 1 in your neck. Inside here is jelly-like stuff. That's called the disc. And this disc is what oozed out. This one, between my 6, 7, between my 5, 6, my 4, 5 was bulging and thinking about bursting out, but it hadn't yet. And these bones had kind of gone like this onto themselves. This one was about to, and then, so my 7, 6, 5, 4, I'm not an artist. So they were starting to fall, and my spine is here. And because they were falling, they had actually put like a little kink in my spine. And that's what's bad. And I had nerves that should have been elsewhere and were getting squished and had no place to go. So from what I understand, this jelly-like disc is removed and a cage is put in with a cadaver bone. And a cage was put in here with a cadaver bone. And then a metal plate was put here and screwed in to hold everything together. And that's what happened to me. But again, you need to talk to your doctor and look at what's happened to you. So I have this collar, and it holds my head in place. I wear it 24/7 for at least the next 2 weeks. I know I will see my doctor in 9 days. I go September 10th. So I am going to take this collar off and put on my shower collar, and you're going to see it, and it's going to be gross. So here's the collar. And there's my surgical site. Now, when I take a shower, I put on this collar. It's foam. And it allows for water to get in there and allows for my incision to get rinsed. I don't wash it with soap. It's just getting water and soap from my hair and face dripping down it. So I'm going to put my regular collar back on. This collar dries very quickly. It's just foam. I'll show it to you better in a moment. Just taking a couple of my loose hairs off my collar. So it's kind of tall in the back. The collar is comfortable to me in that I feel like I need it. There we go. Ow. Okay. The collar is comfortable to me in that I feel like I do need it. This gets, your chin's right there. So what I do is I take a folded over napkin or paper towel and tuck it in here when I eat, because your mouth doesn't open very far. And I drink with straw or very short juice glass. And you have to kind of tip yourself to drink. It's kind of funny. So yeah, this collar is fairly comfortable. I do sleep in it, which it's tricky to find the right position. And I do wake up in the night when I roll over or try to find a new position, but I seem to fall asleep just fine. This shower collar is, oops, sorry, I hit the camera, is like a foam. So the water just falls right off of it. And it dries pretty quickly. So that was my cervical discectomy. Yeah, so it's good. I feel good. I'm very pleased. I'm very happy. I would encourage you to get that surgery if it's recommended for you to do so, and go in with a positive mind and a positive attitude, and feel free to leave a comment or question below, and I hope this video helped. So, and if you are here because of cervical discectomy, your pain can end, and I'll be thinking of you and hoping that all goes well for you. So, and if you're here because you follow the planning girl, thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye.